The students of Notre Dame play the all-important sixth man tonight against the Golden Eagles, who are flying high after wins over Georgetown and Pitt. Marquette battles Notre Dame next. ESPNU brings you Judgment Week from South Bend tonight, where Marquette goes for its 19th victory, 9th in the Big East against Notre Dame. The Irish shooting for their 5th league win after opening up Big East play 1-8. Hi everyone, I'm Luke Canellis alongside Donnie Marshall. Last time these two teams hooked up, it was a great one in Milwaukee. Steve Novak hit a 2 with 1 second left to win it for Marquette. Plenty at stake tonight, should be a great one. This is why Notre Dame needs a victory to hopefully get into the Big East tournament. Marquette still trying to keep pace with the top 4 teams in the league for a first-round bye.
Yeah, and Tom Crean has done a great job with getting his athletes playing well. There you see 8-5 in the conference, 18-8 overall, not just focusing on getting a seed in the NCAA tournament, but a great seed in the Big East tournament. And to me, in my opinion, the way you do that is with the guy named Steve Novak. Really causes a lot of problems, matchup problems for teams, because he's 6'10", Lou, and can shoot the lights out. In my opinion, as he goes, this Marquette team goes.
He is a terrific three-point shooter. The only luck the Irish have had this year has been bad luck. In 9 Big East losses, they have lost by a combined 27 points, including one to your alma mater earlier this week.
Yeah, if you talk to Mike Bray, he would tell you it's not just like a movie, it's like a bad movie. And most people wouldn't believe you if you told them how many points they've lost by overall. And they are struggling just to stay out of that basement and to get into the Big East tournament. And against UConn, they surprised them. They were down 19 points, cut into that, and went on a 25-2 run because of guys like Colin Falls and Chris Quinn. And I tell you what, Lou, if you're a top seed in the Big East tournament, you do not want to meet Notre Dame early on.
Mike Bray's players haven't quit despite the bad luck, and either have the Notre Dame fans. It's a sold-out Joy Center tonight to witness the 107th meeting between Marquette and Notre Dame next. Back at the Joy Center, Notre Dame, Marquette getting set to do battle. Luke Canellis, Donnie Marshall. Time now for Star Watch. We feature each team's senior leader.
Yeah, Steve Novak for Marquette really is starting to come into his own, and just what that means is he's being more aggressive offensively, and Chris Quinn on the other side for Notre Dame really done a wonderful job of scoring the ball and also leading by his vocals and not just by example.
Starting lineups for each club. James McNeil, Chapman, Novak, and Barrow. Quinn, Falls, McIlerney, Carter, and Francis for Notre Dame. Falls coming off a huge effort against Seton Hall last Saturday when he had 32.
Lou, the best way to describe Colin Falls in one word is dangerous, because he's one of those guys who really is so dangerous from outside of that three-point arc. You have to know where he is at all times.
217 of his 258 field goals this year. Threes. McNeil in a hurry. Down low, Barrow lays it up and in. Nice find from McNeil, the freshman. McIlerney, a freshman out of New York, has done a good job of handling the basketball last 8 ball games. Down low, Francis, back to the bucket, working on Barrow, right around Barrow, lays it up off the glass.
Lou, to me, that is so important for Notre Dame to start that way, to really get the pressure on the post presence inside, and it opens up everything on their perimeter for you.
They did such a good job of that in the first meeting back on January 20th. Novak, 4 feet behind the line, comes up short. They did a great job of pounding it down low to Francis, which opened up the three-point shooting on the outside for Quinn. That guy right now who hits inside the line about 10, 11 feet from the bucket.
Important for Notre Dame to understand, get something going to the bucket. If it's not a post play, at least get it going in the paint.
James misses, Barrow finishes. Usman Barrow, right place, right time. There's Mike Bray, head coach for the Fighting Irish. 6th season here in South Bend. 3 NCAA appearances. Last 2 years, they went to the NIT. Keys tonight for Notre Dame.
And you already saw it early in the paint. You have to focus on getting the paint interior, the presence down there early. and guarding the dribble, because on the other side, Dominique James is just too tough to guard man-to-man. So I'd look for Notre Dame to start in the zone early.
How do you defend a guy like James, who may have the quickest first foot in the league?
You know, you turn him into a jump shooter.
Falls, three, no good. You turn him into a jump shooter, you force him to hit that three-point shot, and he's not a very good three-point shooter, 31% from three-point range. Novak at the other end.
And that's what I like so much about Steve Novak, is we saw him step out and shoot a three-pointer from about 3 feet behind the line. He can make that shot. I don't mind it. But on the other side of it, he's 6'10", 6'9", and can get in the interior and finish like you just saw there.
You don't see him shoot often down low, but his dad was his high school coach, and he said, you know what, big men aren't only on the floor to shoot around the bucket. They should shoot in three-point territory, too, and his son shoots as well as anyone when it comes to that three-pointer. James carries it, gives it back to Notre Dame. On the other side, there's Tom Crean, 7th season with Marquette. 6 seasons with the Golden Eagles. He's averaged 20 wins a year. Keys tonight for the Golden Eagles.
Push the ball. You're athletic. You're more athletic than Notre Dame. You got to push it down into their throats. And, you know, and run the shooters of Notre Dame off that three-point line. Make them beat you off the bounce.
Foul number 43, Russell Carter.
Foul down low on Russell Carter off the ball. That's his first, team second. 7-4 Marquette enjoying the early three-point advantage.
You see Notre Dame in a man-to-man, which early on that's fine if you want to see what Marquette is going to bring at you, and if Dominique James is going to get going early. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them get back to a zone, because plays like that.
And they posted up Chapman on Quinn. Chapman 6'4", Quinn 6'2".
Yeah, tough matchup. Plus Chapman is about 215, 220 pounds down there.
Quinn at the other side gets one back, gives up two, and then knocks down the triple. McNeil all the way to the bucket, the reverse layup. Wow, what a play.
Again, transition. As soon as you get Notre Dame on their heels, keep them on their heels. Jarrell McNeil did a great job there.
He's their top defensive player, Jarrell McNeil, but he rebounds, plays defense, and averages still over 11 a game.
Good job by James there, getting Quinn to put the ball on the floor. Or, I'm sorry, Colin Falls.
Francis, too hard off the glass. Barrow fell on his back. Francis had an open shot that he blew. James pulls up, three-point range, not that time. Outlet pass. There's McIlerney. Doesn't have numbers. He'll pull it back. No, instead he makes his move, looking for help. Finds Quinn, almost threw it away. Carter for three. Blocked there by Chapman. Knocked away by Carter. Out of bounds. We'll stay with Marquette.
A little bit too much dribbling the ball for me if I'm a Marquette fan. You want to swing that ball. Notre Dame not necessarily a particularly good defensive team on the ball. So as much as you can make them shift and, again, keep them on their heels, the better off you are if you're Marquette.
They're not a very good defensive team, period. Ask their head coach, Mike Bray. They average 78 points a game, but they allow 70 points a contest. Quinn lost it for a second. Needs help. Off the ball.
So Dominique James, but a great job. You can see exactly what he's trying to do. When Falls comes off of that screen, you almost want to get even with him. You don't want to stay behind him, because if you get behind, his big guys do a great job of getting him open. And here you see him, the bottom left part of your screen. He's lower left. He's right behind him, but he's not so much trailing, so he can force him to go to the basket, not step behind that three-point line.
Cornette almost lost it, going up. Quinn for three. Not that time. Francis had it, lost it.
Wow,
another foul. Yeah,
you
foul
can
down
feel
low. Francis just bringing all kinds of energy.
Yeah, and you can feel the energy in the building. I think everyone, not just the players in both teams, understand what's at stake here tonight, but the fans as well.
Foul was on Barrow, team second. Falls misses everything on the three-point attempt.
Great contest there. Colin Falls is a great shooter, but if you put a hand in his face, it makes it a little bit tougher.
McNeil pulls up too hard. Barrow lost it. Cornette grabs it. Ricky Cornette on the floor for the Irish, coming off a great performance the other night. McIlerney breaking to the bucket, lays it up, and then Quinn with the feed.
Just a fundamentally perfect fast break right there. Chris Quinn, so much composure.
Novak around his defender, throws up the three and hits.
And that's the Steve Novak Tom Crean has been waiting for. Put the ball on the floor. You're good enough, son. And he's been telling him that.
Second best three-point shooter in the Big East, behind only Quinn. Quinn up, fouled from behind by McNeil. He'll go to the line after a timeout. Well, the pace right where we expected it to be, with two of the top shooting teams in the Big East. Marquette, the 14-9 advantage, thanks in part to Quinn and McIlhenny.
There's a timeout on the floor. Attention, fans.
Notre Dame's won 3 of its last 4. They trail early by 5. These two teams hooked up in a good one back on January 20th. Largest crowd ever to see a college basketball game in the state of Wisconsin. Saw Collin Falls keep Notre Dame close against Marquette. But at the very end, Steve Novak knocked down a 2 with 0.8 seconds left to give Marquette the 67-65 victory. That was one of the all-time great ones I've seen in person. Mano a mano they went.
And Notre Dame becoming accustomed more and more to those close losses.
Series history between these two teams. Marquette's won 4 of the last 5. And first time they've played actually twice in a season. I think you'd have to go back to the 92-93 campaign. They only scored to play Notre Dame at least 106 times. Tonight, the 107th meeting between the two schools.
A little bit of pressure there by full court pressure there, or three-quarter court by Notre Dame, just to slow the pace down a little bit. Doesn't get you in trouble if you're Notre Dame. It takes a lot of time off the clock.
Novak finds Chapman, who throws up the 3, comes up short. Francis tracks down the miss. McIlhenny left all alone. Grim into the game for Marquette.
Job by Dominique James to get his guys in order. A freshman. A lot of times you watch this kid, you forget that he is that young because he has so much poise and composure running his team.
Homecoming of sorts for James from Richmond, Indiana. Matthews lost it going to the bucket. Quinn to Francis, who lays it up and in.
So important. The big fellas for Notre Dame is so important, not just tonight, but if they're going to have any chance in getting into that Big East tournament.
One of the tri-captains on this Irish team. He had 8 points, 10 rebounds against Marquette in the first meeting. Matthews. Up top, James. He's already missed 1 3. Takes another. Not that time. Quinn finds McIlhenny. Cornette sets up the screen. Not a Cornette. Thought Francis would stay down on the blocks. He didn't, and he threw it away.
I'd like to see Cornette pull up. He's about 4 or 5 feet from the basket. You can make that shot. A lot of big fellas think, hey, I got to score inside the paint. Cornette's talented enough to just stop and make that little bank shot from about 5, 6 feet.
Ricky Cornette at 12 points, 7 rebounds against UConn earlier this week. Field goal shooting, Marquette 6 of 13, Notre Dame 5 for 12. Dan Fitzgerald in for Marquette.
This pace right now, Lou, really is good for Notre Dame.
James tried to get it to Matthews for the alley-oop. Hit the rim. Quinn finds Kurz. He had a couple of big threes against UConn. Not that time.
Notre Dame getting shots. They just can't knock any down right now. Maybe some jitters. They understand how big this game is tonight.
Dan Fitzgerald, the transfer. Misses. Amoroso. Crowd wanted a foul call. Fitzgerald on the floor. Bodies all over. Cornette gets it to McIlhenny. He's got Quinn breaking. Quinn lays it up. Off the glass. Misses the layup. Kurz, right place, right time. Not that time. All the way to the other end. That's James.
You see him get up for that catch? What an athlete, Dominique James.
Amoroso's 3 wouldn't go.
Some jitters out there, Lou. Guys missing layups, missing little bunnies close in. Haven't quite settled down yet.
You've been there.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes longer in games than others, but as long as you're making the right plays.
Kurz back to Quinn. Tried to set up a screen. Now Quinn is trapped. Shot clock down to 2. Falls will have to throw it up. He does before the buzzer, and it doesn't go. Here comes Matthews streaking on the right side. Too hard off the glass. Where did James come from?
Dominique James, and that is the athlete, Dominique, that you saw right there from Dominique James. He got the rebound, outlet of the pass, ran down for the tip dunk. How special is he, Lou?
40-inch vertical leap for the freshman. He's only 5'11", 175. He's got springs in his shoes. We just saw. Marquette 16-13. Timeout. 11:26 left to play first half. Coming up, ESPN News Pride of the program.
Player autograph session, dinner, video highlights, and remarks from University.
Notre Dame with 232 consecutive games where they've knocked down a triple. They trail by 3, 16-13. Time now for ESPN News Pride of the program. Rutgers, Oregon, Villanova, and then Houston. A who's who of college hoops programs. In the 1977 NIT, St. Bonaventure beat them all. And against the Cougars in the final tournament, most valuable player Greg Sanders poured in 40, earning the Bonnies their lone championship. And for more Pride of the program, go to mobile ESPN. Here at 16-13, 11:26 to play in the first half. They're still talking about that Dominique James ram.
Well, it was just spectacular because we'll see it right here. He outlets the ball. You can see him in the middle of your screen back there. Then he beats everyone down the floor and dunks the thing back. So not only was it spectacular because he's a little fella, but his ability to get up and down the floor, just a wonderful, wonderful athlete. And my pick for Rookie of the Year in the Big East, I think, hands down.
Runner-up for Indiana's Mr. Basketball a year ago. The gentleman who won Mr. Basketball in Indiana. Foul on the floor goes to Kurz for Notre Dame. That's their third. Won by Notre Dame's very own Luke Zeller. And there's James taking a breather.
Talking to Luke at shoot-around, he said, you know, James is just a class act. He knew it when they were in high school, and he cheers for him, he roots for him. He said he probably wouldn't be rooting for him tonight, but it's the kind of guy he is. You want to root for him.
Knocked out of bounds by Falls, which was interesting because Zeller came to Notre Dame, stayed in the state of Indiana. It really hasn't been a great season, great freshman year for Zeller, but for James, it's been terrific, and he isn't jealous at all of the success that James has had. Novak got his defender in the air, throws up the 3. Another foul down low. That time it's on Fitzgerald. 14 fouls.
Talking to Luke, he said they had an AAU game that they had played in, and he said Dominique James waited a half hour for him, the opposing teammate, to tell him congratulations and did a great job, good game. And you know, people were coming by, and Dominique, you know, being bothered by all the fans walking by, but he continued to wait, and that just kind of speaks about his character, especially for a young fella.
Well, they thought James may end up here at Notre Dame. It didn't happen that way. He got his opportunity at Marquette, and what a great opportunity he had spent here in his freshman season.
The Golden Eagles common foul, number 43, Ryan Amoroso.
Foul is on Amoroso, team 5th.
You talk about defensively running Notre Dame off the three-point line, and the way you say it is you stay connected. You can't let them create any space between you. Stay connected without fouling, and that's what Marquette is doing a pretty good job of today.
Quinn's shot wouldn't go. On an open seam in the defense. 1 for 8. Marquette from the floor. Back at the other end. Fitzgerald lays it up and in.
And that stat much more important for Notre Dame than it is for Marquette, because Marquette has a few more weapons, a few more different ways to get their offense going besides that three-point line.
Marquette will shoot 21 threes a game. Notre Dame, an average of 23 a contest. Francis working on Novak, finds McIlhenny, thought about it, throws up the one-hander, right over Novak.
And Mike Bray said at shoot-around, he needs McIlhenny to shoot the ball more, be more aggressive, not just shooting three-pointers from NBA range, but penetrating. We saw he made a great move there.
Quinn with the takeaway, over to Falls. Falls down the baseline. Quinn inside, throws up the one-hander, short that time. He's missed 2 in a row. That's Matthews with the ball. Missed 8 games with a stress fracture during the season. Wasn't around for the first meeting between these two teams, but Mr. Basketball in the state of Wisconsin last year.
Amazing how young bodies heal so well. Only 8 games with a stress fracture. You and I would probably be out about a year and a half. Well, you probably a year and a half. No. Probably me a year.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a little younger than me. McNeil now with 4. 20-15 Marquette. And there's McNeil with the steal. Matthews dives to keep it alive. Novak dives around the horn. McNeil throws up the 3, and Francis pulls down the miss. Fitzgerald comes up with the steal. Novak this time. In and out.
Shots just aren't falling. Both teams are getting them, and Mike Bray says, you know what? We need a break to talk about some things.
Yeah, Notre Dame needs a break. So does Marquette.
The Irish take a 30-second timeout.
Shot the ball well here in the first half. Notre Dame 30% from the floor. Marquette just 41%. And Golden Eagles up 5.
You know, and I'm thinking in the timeout, what does each team need to do? And honestly, keep doing what you're doing. Those shots will eventually fall for you. You know, Notre Dame needs to take a little bit better care of the ball, especially in the situation they are. If you talk about standings and how much this game means to them. And Marquette, I'd say you just keep finding Novak and James.
Zeller in for Notre Dame. Francis against Amoroso. Finds McIlhenny, who throws up the 3 and hits. Kyle McIlhenny.
Basic inside-out basketball, and that's what happens. And McIlhenny can really shoot that thing from downtown.
Out of Moore Catholic High School, Staten Island, New York. 4th in scoring all time in the state of New York. Shooting much more for the Irish. McNeil with the shovel pass. Amoroso back to Novak. No reset. McNeil got Falls in the air. Chapman all alone for 3 and hits.
And Chapman can do that. He's having the best year as far as three-point shooting is concerned at 43, almost 44% from downtown.
And he's a senior, but he's done a great job of fitting in with the freshmen. Some seniors might take offense to that, not getting the playing time that they expected with freshmen coming aboard. But Chapman has found his niche with this Marquette club.
We had some pretty good youngsters, younger players when I played. Ray Allen was 2 years behind me, and you know, it's kind of tough. You think, hey, I'm the man. I've been here 3 years. This kid's going to come in and take all my shots. But when you play with a guy like Ray Allen, you can step back, just like when you play with a guy like this, Dominique James.
James misses. Francis scored 2 at the other end, thanks to hard work. Falls all by himself for 3.
I'd like to see Colin Falls leave that follow through up there a little bit more. Young players out there don't necessarily understand. They don't always do it. You got to hold your follow through. It means so much in misses and makes when you're talking about jump shooting.
Ball will stay at that end of the court. Timeout on the floor. Kyle McIlhenny. And Notre Dame trail by 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Mellencamp concert tickets contest is up now. You remember musical chairs? Now.
I call Sean Morris with an update on a great game. Boston College, NC State, not 1, but 2 overtimes, and Engen Atzer with a final chance for the Wolfpack? No.
Tough week for the Wolfpack at home, Mike. Get blown out by North Carolina earlier in the week, and then a heartbreaking loss to BC right here.
Checking out Iowa, Illinois. All of the Hawkeyes' losses have come on the road. They are down 4 in Lou. You know the state of Illinois pretty well. Champaign, not an easy place to play.
All right, guys, here Notre Dame led 4-2. They've missed 3 chances to tie the game since 1905. And there's James with 2. It's a 5-point lead now for Marquette.
So important execution out of a timeout, not just defensively, but there you see Marquette working that play to perfection. on the out-of-bounds under.
Burke, great defense. James the other way. Spins around Quinn, and Quinn pokes it away. And they call the foul on Quinn.
And that's where Dominique James really shines, when he gets that full head of steam going towards the basket. And what really, to me, is special is the body control. Here you see with the spin, he's down low, and yeah, that's an easy call for the official there, but great move by Dominique James.
James will go to the free throw line,
Dominique James shooting 2.
where he'll shoot 2. 64% from the line. And freshman.
He's got some places where he can improve. You know, there you see his steals, but obviously free throw shooting. And Tom Crean has said to him, listen, you're the best athlete on this team, one of the best athletes in the Big East, one of the best athletes at your size in the country. You have to be a better defender. He has the ability. He just has to put forth that effort.
Are you surprised that he fit in so quickly with this Marquette team? Sometimes a freshman may take his time to fit in. This guy, he leads the team in field goal attempts, so he's not scared to shoot the basketball, that's for sure.
Especially at the point guard spot. I mean, if you're a freshman big guy, then okay, you could see maybe fitting in because the plays aren't run through you. Every play goes through him, so the job that he's done really is tremendous at a young age.
Carter's 3 falls. Russell Carter back in. 27-23.
Russell Carter's been quiet. He's a guy who, to me, is the wild card for Notre Dame because he is, again, talking about athletes, he's the best athlete on this Notre Dame team. And, you know, when they're shooting so many threes, he's that guy who can, I call a straight line guy, who won't play around with the ball, will just go a straight line, getting that ball to the basket.
Yeah, he has the stroke of a shooting guard and the power of a power forward on the floor. Novak to Burke. Burke finds Chapman for 3. Short that time. McIlhenny pulls up all alone. His second triple.
Thing you like about young guys is they're coachable, and again, Mike Bray said, I need McIlhenny to shoot the ball, and he's doing just that tonight.
Tim Higgins coming over. I think he wants to take a look at the replay to see if McIlhenny was on the line.
Couldn't really tell from there. Actually, Tim Higgins was in the way, but before that, you got to pick the ball up. I mean, that's basic basketball. There's no one within 8 feet of him. I mean, you just can't have that when you're talking about a guard that shoots the ball like McIlhenny.
You said that Coach Bray wanted him to shoot the basketball more. Actually, he's done a terrific job of handling the basketball. 12 assists against Rutgers and South Florida. In that time, he averaged 33 minutes a game and did not have a turnover.
Well, when you have the benefit of a point guard who really shoots it like a 2 guard, you know, it really just adds so many options to your team and so many options for a kid like McIlhenny.
Mike Bray's Irish 13-11. 4-9 in the Big East Conference. Those 9 losses by a combined 27 points.
Go even one further, and you mentioned it in the open. 11 of their losses are by an average of 4 points. Getting the Big East play, and now it's 3 points. So, you know, luck of the Irish. What happened to that?
27-26 now. 5:25 left here in the first half. They give him the 3. Keep an eye on Matthews as well for Marquette. What he does is he gives the Golden Eagles another guy that can handle the basketball with James on the floor. Watch him play at the top of the key. Very good defender as well. And has brought a ton of energy since he missed 8 games in this season.
Well, he had it bottled up. That's what happens when you're injured. You can't wait to get on the floor for your team and with your team.
Francis, another rebound. Irish on a 6-0 run. Carter over to McIlhenny again for 3. In and out that time.
But a good job by Carter there. Again, you talked about him being a straight line guy, getting that ball into the paint, drawing the defense, and finding McIlhenny just wouldn't stay down.
Knocked away there by Quinn. It went off of Matthews' foot. We'll go to Notre Dame. The Irish with an opportunity here to take the lead. Marquette's tournament resume. What do you think?
Well, you know, some of the things that stand out, obviously that Connecticut win. Georgetown's playing great. You got to go back and see which teams are playing well now. The loss to Winthrop early in the season, and then to Rutgers. But, you know, in all fairness, you can say, hey, we play in the best conference in the country. And with that being said, I don't think it's a problem for them. You know, I'm not sure how the seeding is going to work, but, you know, again, Marquette is a dangerous, dangerous team when you're talking about tournament play.
Russell Carter for three, 38% three-point shooter. Notre Dame up 29-27, its first lead since they were in front, 4-2. Marquette, as you talked about, also with 4 wins against top 10 teams.
I mean, and that's big, you know, and it gives them the confidence to be able to play, and it gives the NCAA tournament committee the confidence to know that these guys are going to go in and be excited to watch.
Burke didn't have control of it when he went up. Back the other way. Here comes Carter. Just missed it. Had too much energy breaking into the bucket.
He was caught in between. You think he took off a little bit too far there. You know, they got that commercial is out now. Vince Carter's commercial talks about, you know, my coach said 2 points is 2 points, but my coach couldn't dunk, but I can dunk, and I really believe 2 points is 2 points.
Well, and this place was ready to erupt. I felt the energy. Notre Dame up to 29-27. Russell Carter with a burst of energy off the bench.
Mike Collins, Sean Morris getting ready for halftime, where we'll talk about J.J. Redick hitting a season-low points here, breaking an all-time ACC scoring record. What's going on with the Big Ten? 2 teams battling out for the lead. And the SEC, what's going on there?
Well, a big win for the Arkansas Razorbacks on the road, really securing themselves an NCAA tournament bid after that big win over Alabama earlier this week.
All that plus sports and weather coming up at halftime, Lou.
All right, thanks, Mike. What a job here by Turin Francis. 3:21 still to play here in the first half. He already has 10 rebounds in the game to go along with 6 points.
Well, he is the difference maker, and if Ricky Cornett can step up and help him out a little bit, I mean, that's the difference for this Notre Dame team. I mean, everyone thinks about them as being a perimeter-oriented team, and they are, but just an extra added bonus when your big guys can step up.
Francis has led Notre Dame in rebounding every year. This is a guy who tested the NBA waters last year, played in the pre-draft camp, then pulled himself out of the draft. Your thoughts on the next level for Turin Francis?
Well, you know, he's got a great body. I think the one thing that really separates young people and young guys from this level to the next is the confidence factor and being aggressive. And I'm not sure his body doesn't look like he plays. I mean, he's got a great body, but he's not that aggressive. And that's one thing Mike Brey needs from him with this team. But I think that's one thing that he needs. There you see him as we're talking, great timing. That's how he needs to play night in and night out.
Francis now with 8 points to go along with those 10 boards. 31-29, Notre Dame in front.
A lot of things in the NBA, Lou, are mindsets. You talk yourself out of it, you think yourself out of a play or a position, that's what happens.
Novak muscles one up and in.
The ability of Novak at 6'10" to do so many things around the basket, and defensively, not a bad defender either.
What about Novak on the next level?
I love Novak. You know what? I have a fondness for guys that are 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", who can shoot the ball and are athletic, and he's one of those guys. Pitt Snoggle's another guy. Adam Morrison, obviously, we heard a lot about him, but Novak would be one of my sleepers, a guy who can really make a difference on an NBA team early.
Foul on Dwight Burke.
Is first at the team sixth.
Team sixth for Marquette.
Again, Lou, it's confidence, and Tom Crean said, you know, we need Novak to shoot the ball and be aggressive. And you know, at shoot-around, Novak said to me, you know, I said, be aggressive. You know, I just said, shoot the ball. You're a great shooter. And he said, I don't want to feel like I'm being selfish. I said, you know what? You need to be selfish, but for your team. And he's not a guy like that. And players don't understand there's 2 different ways of being selfish.
He's Marquette's all-time leading three-point shooter right now. He broke the single-season record held by Travis Steiner. 97 threes going into this game for Steve Novak. And he also will tell you that he's playing more with his head up, which is so important because he already has the size advantage over his defender.
Yeah. And he's a smart player. I mean, you throw that into the mix. It's really a thinking game and understanding concepts and what your teammates can and can't do in certain situations.
There's Fitzgerald for 3.
Offensively, Marquette is clicking. They're no more are they forcing shots under duress. They're playing together. Great ball movement.
Marquette back in front, 34-32. Francis working on Barrow. Carter looks down low, tried to get it to Francis, knocked away by Barrow. Here comes James the other way. In a hurry, the alley-oop. Matthews right over the back of Quinn. Goes up. Francis blocked it.
Way to retreat and get back defensively if you're Turin Francis. So many times you see big guys jogging back on defense. Not there. Francis was all over that play.
There's that energy you asked for.
Yep.
McInerney thought about it. Falls has been held quiet here in the first half. Quinn down the baseline, throws it up. Hit the deck hard. And here comes Mike Bray out onto the court.
And you can see immediately Mike Bray walks out onto the floor, and usually the trainer's the first guy, and that just shows you a little bit of his fondness for his team and obviously his team leader.
And James is called for the foul there, but as we look at the replay, he just lost his footing when he went up.
Yeah, it looked like his legs were just out from under him here. And oh, he had the left, I see, the left leg hit James inadvertently there. And he's getting up and he's okay, and that's good to see. And yeah, I tell you, he's a tough kid. He's like, look, I don't want to come off the floor.
Irish trainer.
He's fighting.
He doesn't want to leave.
He's fighting the trainer. I'm not. Where are we going?
Don't make me come out of the game.
Yeah,
There's still a minute going to play in the first half.
Tough. Quinn is just a tough kid.
One of the captains of this Irish team.
Plus, you talk about Quinn, a guy who in league play averages 41.9 minutes a game, and obviously there's only 40 minutes in a game, so those overtime games really mean a lot to him. And almost 40 minutes a game overall in the season, so he doesn't come off the floor. He's a staple for this Notre Dame team.
That's amazing. Saturday night, lace up your skates for some hockey here on ESPNU. 8 o'clock Eastern, the Wisconsin Badgers face Minnesota State. And at 10:30 Eastern, the Maine Black Bears and the Merrimack Warriors hit the ice. College hockey here on ESPNU. Saturday night. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Hers with another free throw. In and out. 34-33. Marquette in front. And here comes Quinn. I don't even know if he made it to the locker room. Down low, Chapman pulls up, uses the glass nicely.
Great poise and composure by Marquette. You know, they're on the road, you're in the Big East, and you still got your nose in on every play and making great plays.
Ball shot wouldn't fall. But Francis, great positioning underneath for the rebound.
They will see Quinn.
Foul.
We talked about that, and I agree with you. I don't think he made it to the training room. And listen to this crowd.
And this crowd appreciates it. You know, Chris Quinn's a guy that really took some heat from some of the Notre Dame fans, and he's one of the toughest players you will find. You know, always played in the shadow the first 3 years of Chris Thomas here. By the way, Chris Thomas is at the game. Against Michigan, all he did was score Notre Dame's final 15 points in a 71-67 loss, and at Pitt, 30 of the 37 points that he scored came in the second half. At one point, he scored 16 in a row. I mean, he is tough.
Yeah, and he learned a lot from Chris Thomas, playing with Chris Thomas. But the thing that I was looking at my notes, and I did a game earlier in the year, and the note I have under Chris Quinn is needs to be more vocal. And I tell you what, he has come light years from that in just a short amount of time this season. And Mike Bray said, you know what, he's been the reason why our guys have been more communicative, and we have done some pretty good things.
29th career double-double for Turin Francis already here in the first half.
We still got another half to play. I mean, that shows you the ability of Turin Francis and what he can bring to the table.
10 points, 12 rebounds already. Novak finds Chapman. Chapman with 7. Looking for room. The fadeaway wouldn't go. Novak needs help. Thrown out of bounds. Knocked away by Kerr, so it will stay with Marquette. Tom Crean wants a quick 30. 36-35. You touched on Quinn being more vocal today at Notre Dame's practice. What did Mike Brey work on with his club?
Just talking. Everyone talk. Whether it's offensively, everyone helping each other, yelling out the play, or it's defensively. And to me, it's important on both ends of the floor. And he said, you know what? We just need to talk. We don't have a lot of guys who communicate and talk a lot, and I want my guys being vocal.
And you were probably the best talker on that UConn team, were you not?
Yeah, I was. And basically, the difference in a win and a loss is communication, knowing the right sets, the right matchups. And, you know, maybe they should have had more communication in some of these losses here.
Look at how tight these ball games were. Michigan, 71-67. 3-point double overtime loss at Pitt. They lose. Actually, they won by 6 against DePaul. I mean, you just go up and down the list. 10 losses by a combined 31 points.
You couldn't write that up. I mean, you couldn't write that up in a horror film, you know. I mean, and that's what it's been for Mike Brey this season. But he loves his kids, and he's teaching them the right things. And it's not just coaching. And, again, you know, the whole thing, the cliche of winning is everything or winning isn't everything, depending on who you talk to. It couldn't be more apparent than with this Notre Dame team this season, because they are learning a lot about themselves, and you tend to learn more about yourself when you lose than when you win.
Yeah, Mike Brey's a fighter, and so are his kids. He said, you know what? Those are the types of kids that I recruited here to Notre Dame. They owe something back to the school, and that means not quitting, even if we haven't caught a break all year long.
We saw that against Connecticut. They were down 19 and came back.
Every reason in the world to pack it up at halftime, and they would not let that happen. Notre Dame had a foul to give, so Marquette with another opportunity here. McNeil throws it up, short. Fitzgerald, wow, what a shot off the glass. And that will wrap up the first half. What a play by Dan Fitzgerald after the McNeil miss.
Huge bucket, and that's what Fitzgerald brings to this team at 6'9", only 200 pounds, but very active, very athletic, and energetic.
38-35, Marquette leads here in South Bend. Now let's get it to the ESPNU studios. Tight one here in South Bend. Marquette leads by 3 at the break, 38-35, 3 ties, 7 lead changes. Lee Pinellas along with Donnie Marshall. Donnie, let's revisit Star Watch, the 2 players that we focused on, a couple of senior leaders, and really neither of them particularly played great in the first half, did they?
No, they really didn't, but it's their supporting cast, I think, that have really kept this game close. But you know what? You can't fall asleep on either one of these guys. And if I had to favor one side, I'd have to say Chris Quinn, because he does such a great job of getting his guys into great positions. I mean, he doesn't have to score to be effective for his team. I think Steve Novak, he's going to have to step it up and be a little bit more aggressive. And I don't mind him taking bad shots, because he's a guy you want taking the most for your team, because he has the best upside when you talk about shot attempts.
Novak 1 for 5 from 3-point range in the first half, and Quinn 1 of 2.
Hey, pay attention to Colin Falls. He had a goose egg in that first half. He didn't score, and the difference for Notre Dame is this guy right here, Terrin Francis, double-double in that first half.
10 points, 12 rebounds for the senior. Francis, the turnaround jumper, right over barrel.
That's a move that you don't see a lot from Terrin Francis. That's a move that you make when you're feeling good, because Terrin Francis, usually a guy, has to keep his back to the basket, and those type of moves right there will help him at that next level and get to that next level.
Francis has started all 108 games he's played in here at Notre Dame. Novak throws one up. Barrow picks up the miss and puts it back.
Yeah, Barrow's a good piece for this Marquette team. He's a raw player, but he gives you that effort and energy every single play. He might get himself into trouble sometimes offensively and defensively, but you really can't question his effort. Offensive rebound there for Barrow. He has more offensive rebounds than defensive this season. Falls throws one up at the right hand. Still a goose egg for Colin Falls. James pulls up, uses the glass to perfection. James struggled a little bit in that first half, only going 3 for 9, but that's what he has to do to do a better job of getting himself in a better position offensively, getting to the rack. Francis, free throw line extended, no. McNeil pulls down the miss. Hesitates, throws it up off the glass too hard. Francis, his 13th board.
Quinn needs help. Tied up there. Chapman with a good job of tying up Quinn. And the ball will go to Marquette.
Not like Chris Quinn to get himself in a tough spot, but the reason that happens is because your teammates on the weak side are just standing still. You got to move, especially when you're playing with a guy like Chris Quinn. He's going to find you. All you got to do is just move to the right spot.
And Chapman's such a smart player, a senior for Tom Crean, doing all the little things on the floor, forcing the turnover. They call the foul on Carter, trying to defend Chapman.
Much better matchup, though, with Carter on Chapman than Falls or Quinn at times we saw in the first half.
Here comes Kurz, and Quinn takes a seat.
There you see Steve Novak, nothing. Good defense by Falls, but didn't see the hold. It must have been before that pass was made there, but Chapman's a tough matchup in the post.
Novak looking for room. Back up top. And James will reset the Marquette offense. 42-37. Golden Eagles in front. Marquette 18-8, 8-5 in league play. Notre Dame 13-11, 4-9 in the Big East. McNeil throws one up. And Carter fights with Francis. Carter says, give me that one. You've had already enough. 13 rebounds for Francis.
Marquette's gotten back to that old thing that they were doing in the first half of shooting shots under duress, not letting it come in the flow of the offense.
Falls 6 feet behind the line, partially deflected there by McNeil, so it will stay with Notre Dame. Falls now trying to force the shot just to get into a rhythm. He must be going crazy. This is a guy, Colin Falls, who averages almost 15 points a contest.
I mean, he's a foot and a half beyond. Might have got hit there, but he's a foot and a half beyond NBA range. And Mike Bray said, you know, that's one of his problems throughout the season is that he thinks a little bit too much and then he starts to press.
James came up with the steal, and then he was fouled. Foul is on McIlhenny, his first, team second.
You got to see Dominique James really trying to beat this Notre Dame team off the bounce and not so much over the top. He struggled in that first half from three-point range, 0 for 2, and 2 misses from downtown, I think was enough for him.
There he is off the dribble. Tried to find McNeil. McNeil down the baseline, lays it up and in. No one picked him up. No help defense for Quinn.
Yeah, that's a good move for McNeil. He's another guy you'd like to call straight line guys. Doesn't really play a lot with the basketball. Gets right to the rack.
So versatile at 12 points, 5 assists against Notre Dame in the first matchup. Francis, double team, Barrow. And James comes away with the miss.
Marquette doing a great job of limiting Notre Dame to one shot. Doing a great job on the glass.
Just one shot there for Marquette. And back at the other end, there's Quinn. Francis pulled down by Novak. And Novak's in pain on the floor.
Looks like he took an elbow.
Yeah, right to the neck. He's trying to catch his breath.
Well, the problem is he overcommits himself on the baseline side, which you should never do when that ball is being entered from the wing, because now the offensive player has you on his hip, and you can look over the whole middle of the floor there, and Novak just got himself in a bad way on that baseline.
McIlhenny pulls up and hits. It's a 2. He had 1 foot inside the line. Kyle McIlhenny now with 13.
Well, he stepped up. I mean, he really has done a great job tonight in being the aggressor offensively.
He's doubled his season average. 6 points a game coming in. Novak one-hands it. Knocked around. Wonder if Francis accidentally knocked it in.
He might have got a little help from Turin Francis. Novak got the assist and the bucket there.
Carter pulls up. Hits the side of the backboard, but it was partially deflected by Chapman, so it will stay with Notre Dame after a timeout. Marquette enjoying its largest lead, 7, 46-39 here in the second half, and the prodigal son has returned to South Bend.
One of my favorite players of all time, Chris Thomas. I mean, just a great career he had here. I mean, if you look at their record books, he's in the top 5 of about 6 or 7 of them. And, you know, when you think of Notre Dame, that's most recently who you think of.
You had a chance to chat with him at halftime. Yeah. What's he doing? How's he doing? I know he was floating around here on crutches. What's up?
He had arthroscopic surgery a couple days ago, and he said he's back from Italy rehabbing. And I said he had a great experience over there. Brian Oliver was one of his teammates. The Brian Oliver played with Dennis Scott from way back. He said he learned a lot from, you know, a couple of veterans he played with. And, you know, I told him it was great to see him. And he said it's great coming back here because all the fans love him. And, you know, he is Notre Dame basketball. So just another class act of a kid.
Knocked away there by Carter. And Chris Quinn has learned so much from playing behind Chris Thomas.
First thing Chris Thomas said when I sat down, he said, how about CQ? That Chris Quinn's doing great, isn't he? And I said, he really is. It was interesting, you know, as much as Chris Thomas has going on, to say, Chris Quinn, how great is he? And I'm like, he is, and I agreed with him.
Mike Bray watching his team, trailing by 7. 10 turnovers for the Irish. Foul was on McNeil. Second team foul on Marquette here in the second half.
You know, not to belabor it, but Chris Thomas was a guy who I thought should have been drafted, but a guy who changed his game for the NBA draft and showed that he could be a team player and a better defensive player. Numbers were down his senior year, didn't get drafted, but he's still got a bright career. Said he's going to go to some NBA summer leagues this summer, and we wish him all the best.
Golden Eagles on an 8-2 run over the last 5+ minutes. An opportunity now to go to its largest advantage in this game. Novak throws one up short. Francis another rebound. Now as 14 falls all the way to the other end, lays it up off the glass. Well, I thought they were going to call an offensive foul, and they do on Colin Falls.
Here's the problem I have with this. If you're Colin Falls, you got to find either the middle of the floor or someone in the middle of the floor, and you run the wing. Right there, you got a big guy running with you. You're not necessarily going to give it up. Dominique James, in all fairness to Falls, I think Dominique James might have moved in at the last second there, so not so sure that was the best call.
Mike Bray talking right now to his junior from Loyola Academy, Park Ridge, Illinois, Colin Falls. What's he telling the junior who's having such a difficult time getting going offensively? He's still scoreless in this game.
I guarantee you he's telling him, we're going to get something going for you. You don't have to continue to force it. We'll get you involved.
Marquette another opportunity. James makes his move so quick. No look pass to Omarosa. Shot wouldn't fall. McIlhenny had Kurz for a moment open at the other end. Carter down low. Francis backing his way in on Grimm. The one-hander gets it to go.
And if it's working, you got to continue to go to it.
Back at the other end, shot wouldn't go for Matthews. Here comes McIlhenny. He's got Carter on the other side. Finds Carter, throws it up and in, and he'll go to the line. Heads up play there from McIlhenny.
Well, we talked about McIlhenny being more aggressive offensively and scoring, but to be aggressive, draw the defense and drop the ball off. And the fact that Russell Carter continued to run, a lot of players would stop and see what would happen, and Carter with the strong finish there.
Early in the season, McIlhenny said that things were moving way too fast. Now that he has grasped the college game, everything's in slow motion, and he has mastered it on this level.
Well, imagine this, Lou. You not only sign at Notre Dame, one of the most prestigious colleges in the history of college basketball and college athletics, then you have to get thrown right into the Big East Conference, which this year I think hands down is the best conference in the country, so it would be a little bit overwhelming.
Matthews. Call for the offensive foul. Quinn with a nice job there.
There you see the intelligence of Chris Quinn, how smart he is defensively.
I don't know if he was hit that hard, but he actually ended up in the first row of the student body section here.
It's all right to act, maybe be a little bit flamboyant. I was accused of being that a little bit when I played. Nothing wrong with that.
Irish on a 7-2 run over the last 3:20. They were down by 7, now with an opportunity to tie or go ahead. Carter, double team for a moment. Ends up in Quinn's hands. Shot clock now down to 10. Carter, left-handed dribble. Finds Kurz. Three-pointer wouldn't fall. Here comes Marquette. James pulls up and hits. That's a three.
Big time play by Dominique James. And I call guys like him gamers, because anytime you get in a situation where you need a bucket, he's a guy who will take and make that shot.
You and I said that he couldn't shoot the three, had missed his first 2 3-point attempts in this game. He didn't hesitate. He had the open three and took it again. Carter gets it back.
The Carter, Mr. Carter responding. And when this guy, as athletic as he is, can add that to your team, oh, so special.
Russell Carter Jr. out of New Jersey. 2-point game. James to the bucket. Blocked for a moment. Grimm comes out with it. Matthews, Fitzgerald all alone for three. Short. And there's Carter picking up the loose ball.
Tell you what, Lou, I've been here 4 times, my 5th time doing a Notre Dame game this year, and this is the loudest I've heard this crowd, hands by far.
Francis, free throw line extended. Why not? We're tied up at 49.
The senior stepping up, saying, I know I'm running out of time. I got to give my team everything I can.
4th tie in this game. They're on their feet here at the Joyce Center. James pulls up. Three wouldn't fall. Foul on the floor. And they call it on Carter. Timeout. 3rd foul on Carter. 14 foul. We're tied at 49. Thanks in part to Torrin Francis, who has 16 points, 14 rebounds.
My call, Sean Morris, updating you in Iowa and Illinois, where you don't want to mess with that south wind in Chambana. Rich McBride for a three. We had Bruce Weber on earlier in the year. He said he's got to be their 3rd scoring option.
Well, he's the 2nd leading scorer in terms of three-pointers made in the Big Ten. They need a big game from him because D. Brown is struggling, much like he did the first time these two teams met.
Meanwhile, Ohio State wins, so they're already on top of the Big Ten. Iowa, if they win, they'll join Ohio State.
All right, guys, Iowa trying to win its first Big Ten title in 36 years. Wow. Here it's tied at 49. 4th tie in this game. James on the floor with Matthews, Amoroso, Novak, and Fitzgerald for Marquette. Makes his move on McIlhenny. Throws one up. Off the glass. Rolls around and in.
And that's why he is so good. Again, we saw him come down and pull up from 3, but his strength is beating that defender off the dribble, and really no one on Notre Dame's team can stop him.
Did such a good job of spreading the floor and then made his move.
Now, it's not that Notre Dame has bad defenders. It's that he's that good offensively.
Cornette. Throws one up with the left hand. Kurz off the glass. One out. Rob Kurz. We remain tied.
One of the few times you saw Marquette give up an offensive rebound for a score to Notre Dame, and they've done a great job most of the night, almost all of this game, on keeping them at one shot and done.
Foul off the ball. Francis comes back. Foul is on Quinn. Balanced attack for Marquette. James with 15 leading the way. Novak with 9. Chapman, Fitzgerald, and Barrow 7 apiece.
Well, whatever Coach Crean said to Dominique James at halftime, he had 8 points, and now he has 15, 16 points there, and he's stepped it up. I mean,
he's right at his season average, 15 and a half a game for the freshman. Fitzgerald tried to get it down low to James and threw it away. Just a 9 turnover for the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, and that's important when you're on the road. I think there's a couple aspects of basketball that you really have to focus on if you want to win on the road, and that's knocking down your free throws. And we really haven't been to the foul line a lot tonight if you're Marquette, but taking care of the ball. You can't turn the ball over on the road. And then cut down the offensive rebounds, and I think they've done a pretty good job of all three of those things.
On the season, they only turn it over 15 times a game. Not bad. Had a season low 11 turnovers, back-to-back games against the fallen pitch. Shot clock is now down to 7. Quinn trying to free himself up from Matthews. Breaks through defenders, throws it up. Wouldn't go. But Novak is called for the foul, and Quinn back to the line.
Lou, how about the patience he shows with about 4 seconds right there? He's dribbling the ball and just the composure and, again, the patience that he shows. That's what you get from a guy who talked about has played under the tutelage of not only Mike Brey but Chris Thomas for 3 years, and now the team leader as a senior.
Second foul for Novak. 15 foul. Here comes McNeil back. James will get a breather. Win at the line.
And you talked about it earlier, the beauty of having Wes Matthews back, that he can help. Even though McNeil came in for James, he can help run that point. Matthews, and well, you don't have to be Allen Iverson or Jason Kidd. You know what? Just run your team. And I think Coach Crean does one of the better jobs in the country of getting his teams and his players to understand what their roles are. You know, don't have to be a superstar. Just be solid for us and get us in good situations.
And he's got great play from 3 freshmen in Matthews, James, and McNeil this year. Novak backs his way in. Pin behind the bucket, gets it out to Amoroso. Now McNeil. There's one of the freshmen, throws it up. Wouldn't go, and Kurz pulls down the miss. James, McNeil, Matthews, they're finally called the kids on this team. They're all high school stars, all committed to Marquette in the same month, and they all like to play on the perimeter.
Tell you talk about new teams entering the Big East this season. And Marquette, with its youth, they have a bright future in this conference as well as they're playing this year. I mean, it's got to be bright for them years to come.
Quinn for 3. Chris Quinn.
Good job by Corinne Francis not to travel. He was off balance there, and he found Quinn. I mean, just a great play right there for Notre Dame.
And now Notre Dame enjoys its largest lead at 5. Notre Dame has scored 12 of the last 14 points in this game. They lead by 5. And the freshman dynamic duo of James and McNeil doing the job so far. McNeil has had an off night. Yeah. James taking over here, especially in the second half.
Yeah, but I like what McNeil is doing. He's doing a great job of getting into the interior of the defense, and he's active. I think defensively he's had a couple deflections. He's got 4 assists, so you know he's on the floor. He's not scoring, but he's showing it in other ways, and Dominic James is just tremendous.
Fitzgerald throws up the 3. Dan Fitzgerald, the transfer from Tulane, makes it a 2-point game. Ball still scoreless. Looking for room. Finds Kurz.
It's important for Marquette to not fall asleep on Falls, because as soon as you forget about him, that's when he kills you.
He's a shooter. Shooters keep shooting until they hit. Francis throws it away. Timeout, 2-point lead for Notre Dame.
Ladies and gentlemen, Coach Mike Brey and the
7:11 left. Notre Dame up to 56-54. This game, much like the last time these two teams hooked up back on January 20th. Bradley Center in Milwaukee. Colin Falls kept Notre Dame in it. He had 21, but Steve Novak knocked one down with 0.8 seconds left, giving Marquette a 67-65 win. As we look at Marquette's tournament resume, overall record of 18-8, 8-5 in the Big East. Key wins over UConn. That opened up their Big East play. And recently, Georgetown and Pitt.
Yeah, and I don't think you worry about the key losses. Rutgers possibly, but they're in the Big East, so everyone understands how tough the Big East is. And Winthrop, that was so long ago that I don't really think that affects them, but strength of schedule is 17. It's pretty impressive. And then they go and they really have an opportunity. They play at Louisville March 1st, and then they play at home against Providence. So 2 very winnable games, especially against Louisville, since Padgett is out for the rest of the season.
And even if you believe that Marquette's in the NCAA tournament with the way they've played so far, they still have something at stake, and that is seeding as Novak hits the 3. in the Big East tournament coming up. They want to be one of the top 4 seeds.
Yeah, and basically for them, if they can get a win tonight, they'll be 9-5, and they'll be right up in the bunch. Georgetown's just ahead of them at 10-5, and West Virginia 10-4 with wins today. And you know, it's still very important for these teams at the top to focus on where they are and what they have to do over these next 8 days are going to be very, very important for Big East teams.
Marquette up 1, 57-56. McIlerney at the scorer's table, ready to check in. Matthews to Novak. Barrow on the floor. Novak pulls up and hit. That's 2 in a row.
How good is that? He's 6'10", and that's what you get from a guy 6'10" versus a guy who's 6'5", shooting that ball over the top. And moving to your right is not the easiest shot when you're shooting that ball from 22 feet.
You called it in the first half. You said that his coach, Tom Crean, wanted him to put it on the floor more and pull up and shoot that 3, and he has done it not once, not twice, but 3 times in this game.
Well, he has the ability. Here you see he's got a great defense there, but a great shot, great offense beats great defense any day. And you got to keep your confidence if you're Steve Novak, and Coach Crean has done a great job of telling him. We heard him today in shoot-around. Listen, you have to be aggressive and have to shoot the ball for us, young fella.
Novak and Marquette right now on a 9-0 run thanks to 3 threes. They lead 60-56, 5:57 left here at the Joyce Center. Novak with 15 in this one. 3 for 8 from three-point range. A couple of Marquette fans made the 3-hour drive from Milwaukee to be here to cheer on their Golden Eagles, who again wrap up the season at Louisville and then home against Providence.
Listen, Lou, you score 41 points against, quite frankly, right, and quite frankly, the deepest team in the country and one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. You're pretty good, and Steve Novak did just that.
He also had 15 rebounds in that game that's overlooked. Carter to roll into the bucket is fouled by Chapman. No one really talks about the 15 rebounds.
Yeah. So if I'm Coach Crean, the first thing I'd say, if Novak's struggling or he's having any questions about offense or what he has to do offensively, I go back and I show him some tape of that Connecticut game or a box score. Either one would work.
And what does it say to you, a guy that played on the next level, when you look at a player like Novak, 6'10", 220, terrific three-point shooter, second best in the Big East, 45%, averages 17 points a game, but also leads his team in rebounding.
Yeah, so many times you get a player like a, you know, you talk about like a Keith Van Horn, you talk about a Dirk Nowitzki, big guys who can shoot from downtown. They don't necessarily care about the rebounding aspect of it, and that just goes to show you that Novak's understanding and intelligence about the game of basketball. He understands he can't be a one-dimensional guy shooting threes. You got to use your size, and he does a great job of using his size on both ends of the floor.
And a lot of that is because of his father, who was his coach at Brown Deer High School in Wisconsin.
That always helps when your father is a coach.
2-point game, 60-58, 5:40 left. Buckle up, folks. We're going down to the wire with these 2 teams again. Chapman all alone for 3. Why not? No one picked him up.
And he's a guy you got to find. He's shooting that ball the best he's shot it in his career. Cannot leave him alone from downtown.
Chapman's second 3 in this one.
44% from down there. That's pretty doggone good.
Carter right around Chapman. Chapman couldn't keep up with him and commits the foul. 17 foul on Marquette. So Carter will go to the line.
You know, Notre Dame in the zone really got to do a better job of running, and Carter there was probably the victim of that, turning and looking. And the key with playing against the zone is you have to shift defensively and start to run when that ball is being thrown. You can't wait till it's in the air and being caught before you run to recover to the defender, because you see in that situation, it's just too late.
Carter misses. Notre Dame 72% as a team from the line.
Interesting, Notre Dame came out with Dominique James out in a zone, and Dominique James comes back in and they're man-to-man.
Novak's 3, that wouldn't go.
think he needed a little bit more of a hand in his face to make it.
Well, he was feeling it. You could tell. He felt like he was in the rhythm and almost drained that one. Quinn trying to get around Matthews, throws it away.
Steve Novak was there for that help defense, trying to take the charge, didn't get it, but again, the awareness and the ability of the Marquette players to understand where to be on the floor.
Matthews pulls up inside the line, long. McInerney pulls it out to Quinn.
If I'm Notre Dame right now, I'm going back to what got me here, and that's throwing the ball into Trent Francis.
You called it, knocked away there by Barrow. Francis gets it back.
Go back to him.
Mike Bray calls a timeout. 16 seconds left on the shot clock. 3:44 on the game clock. 63-58. Marquette in front.
That's a good timeout there. I think that they were a little bit out of whack when they threw the ball into Trent Francis. He's better when you throw the ball in and he has one guy on his side. Look at that balanced scoring there, led by Francis. And a guy who we don't see on there, it's not normal for this team, is Colin Falls.
0 for 7 from the floor. A week ago today, he had 32 against Seton Hall.
And that's probably the difference in this game. And if you wrote this up earlier and said, you know what, this is how it's going to go, people would have told you you're crazy. Colin Falls would have had his nose right in there. And
has Marquette done anything defensively to shut down Falls?
Yes, I think what they've done, and it's not all Colin Falls forcing shots, but Marquette started early on running him, like we talked about in the keys, running him off that three-point line, being very physical, very aggressive with him, and he hasn't really recovered from that. But again, you can't forget about him because he'll step up.
Shot wouldn't go. Carter gets it, throws it back up. No. Again, he comes down with it, and he draws the foul. By Russell Carter, what an effort tonight. 15 points for Carter to go along with 5 rebounds. The hustle from Carter. Notre Dame down by 5.
Well, so much for this one being a nail-biter. My call here with Sean Morris, Illinois and Iowa, James Tadid and Marcus Arnold. Every one of Iowa's losses has come on the road.
And Illinois getting some production off the bench, something that was very lacking in the loss to Michigan.
16-point lead, Lou.
Guys, Marquette has not swept Notre Dame since the 1938-39 season. They're trying to do it tonight. Notre Dame's 9 Big East losses by a combined 27 points, 4 in overtime, 2 in double overtime. They're used to nail-biters like this.
Yeah. And the guy who is normally right in the middle of everything, especially at the end of games, is Colin Falls, and he has a goose egg tonight, no points. But we talked about it in the break, you and I, don't count him out. I guarantee you don't count him out.
He's a shooter. 87 threes on the season for Colin Falls. Yet to be heard from tonight. Big free throws from Carter. 3-point game. That's James directing traffic. Novak sets the screen. Barrow sets a screen. James finds McNeil alone. Pulls up inside the line. Francis, 15th rebound for the senior.
Composure, execution now, so important for both teams down the stretch. And again, I believe you got to go back into Trent Francis if you're Notre Dame. Just let him get a touch. Even if he doesn't score, he can draw some defenders and leave those shooters wide open.
Francis has made 7 of 11 shots tonight. Good for 16 points. Shot clock now under 10. Quinn double team. Trying to free himself. Gets it to Francis, who throws it away. Shot clock was off. Wait a second. Shot clock violation goes to Marquette.
Well, bad decision there, sorry Lou, by Trent Francis to pass the ball. You're 4 feet from the basket. If that, you got to shoot that ball, especially tonight. You're playing great. You're shooting the ball well. Right here, you got to shoot that ball. You're at the block.
63-60. Matthews getting set to come back from Marquette. Grimm on the floor for the Golden Eagles. McNeil trying to go around Francis. Throws it away, McIlhenny. And James gets it back.
How good is this kid?
Well, he's all over the place.
He really is. And understanding of the game, not getting too flustered. But this is where your freshmen have to step up. You saw McNeil with the turnover on the last possession, and they fortunately got the ball back.
There's McNeil. Down low to Novak. Novak shoots the fadeaway, in and out. McNeil, right place, right time. No one boxed him out.
And that's what you love to see from your players, understanding where to be. And Novak, great shot there. I love that shot.
Francis loses it.
Now if you're Marquette, see the foul there by McIlhenny. If you're Marquette, you got to press. You can't sit back and try to just play not to lose. You got to play to win. Keep forcing your will.
Notre Dame needs this game badly.
They do. They get a win. They're 5-9, and they're right back in the mix.
Don't forget, the bottom 4 teams in the Big East don't go to New York for the Big East tournament.
And Providence is playing Pittsburgh right now, so at Pittsburgh, so that's a tough win. So Notre Dame, they pull this one out. They got a chance to get to the Big East tournament.
And Carter fouls Novak. He's the last guy in the world you'd want to foul. Novak, the best free throw shooter in the country, 98.5%. Folks, he is 66 for 67 from the line.
Well, I'm glad you said it, and for his sake and his team's sake, I hope he makes it, because usually when that happens, that's like that's a bad omen.
Like an Ellis jinx. Oh. Marquette hasn't missed a free throw. Novak, by the way, has now made 31 in a row. Two for two. He's automatic.
He is automatic.
Only free throw he's missed over that span back in January of last year, 2005. Twin shot partially blocked. And Novak again fouled. Marquette faithful making some noise here at the Joy Center. Saturday night, lace up your skates. Some hockey here on ESPNU. 8 o'clock Eastern. Wisconsin takes on Minnesota State. 10:30 Eastern. Maine against Merrimack. College hockey here on ESPNU Saturday night. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Mr. Automatic back at the free throw line. He has 17. Make it 18.
Tell you, Marquette's putting it together at the right time to get Wes Matthews back, and guys are healthy. Coach Crean has got to be just ecstatic about the way his guys stepped up tonight and their future coming up into this Big East, into the Big East regular season and
last
the Big East tournament.
They were also 18-8, but then they lost Travis Diener during the stretch as McIlhenny lays it up and in. Quick timeout for Notre Dame, and then dropped 4 of their last 5 games. This season, a little different. Everyone's healthy. We're at the Marquette practice today, and for the first time since the beginning of December, this is a healthy Marquette roster.
Yeah, and you know what? They're healthy physically, but they're also healthy mentally. Guys feel good about each other as a team. They understand how they'll be successful as playing together, and that's a huge part of it coming down the stretch, is to maintain the focus and the confidence in your teammates.
Each team with 8 team fouls, 3 timeouts for the Golden Eagles, just 1 for Notre Dame, and the possession arrow in favor of the Irish. Marquette 8-5 in league play. Georgetown won earlier today to improve to 10-5 over Syracuse. West Virginia also a winner over Louisville. They're now 10-4 in the big matchup tomorrow at UConn, the Huskies and Villanova, and you will be there, I'm sure.
I will be there at that game as a fan. And Marquette has an opportunity. They go to Louisville and they have Providence at home, so they really have an opportunity getting this win today to get to 11-5.
Grimm with the coup de grace.
Yeah.
Partially blocked there by Novak.
Marquette just stepped up. They did a great job. This Notre Dame crowd was tough. They were loud. Notre Dame as a team came out. They missed some early buckets, easy buckets, and Terrin Francis he stepped up and played great, but Colin Falls really non-existent in the scoring column, and that's kind of been part of their story. 2 or 3 guys would step up, but you can't get all 5 guys on the floor clicking.
All 5 guys working together. You played on that UConn team back during the 94-95 season that lost to UCLA at the end. Tell us how important it is at this point in the season that all 5 guys are on the same page.
Well, you know, the confidence level, obviously your coach sticking you guys out on the floor, and understanding if I cut backdoor, my teammate Ray Allen at the time was one of my teammates, Kevin Ollie, who's also in the NBA now, Travis Knight. Those guys understood. If I went one way, they came the other, and defensively it was the same. You got to be on a string. You got to have the understanding and the confidence in your teammates to be where they're supposed to be.
It's
and
also
know their roles.
Oh, as Carter knocks down the 3, 5 feet behind the line, 73-65, but it's also so important to remember how you got there.
Right, and that's the key. I think a lot of guys get caught up in the glitz and the glamour of being in the NCAA tournament, being in the Big East tournament, and hey, you know, they know they're on the national stage. Let me show everybody what I really can do. Hey, what you really can do is what you've done all season long. Don't change now. And you know, I would say to coaches and teams that are in that situation, make sure players understand what got them there as a team and as a unit, and stick with that.
73-65, Marquette in front. ESPNU shoots Southwestern Athletic Conference hoops action your way Monday night. Alabama A&M against Texas Southern here on ESPNU. College basketball on ESPNU Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern. For more information, log on to ESPN.com.
That Alabama A&M team, good team. Van Pettaway has a special kid, and Obi Trotter led the nation now in steals 2 years in a row, and I tell you, he's fun to watch, can score defensively. He's averaging close to 4 steals a game, and got a great name too, Obi.
Yeah,
Obi Trotter.
We've touched on Falls being held scoreless in this game. Ricky Cornett also scoreless. Yeah. Luke Zeller, the freshman, scoreless. Kurz, who had a big effort the other night against UConn with a couple of key threes in that matchup that went into overtime, held to 3 points. It's really been a 2-man show, 3-man show for Notre Dame. Carter, Francis, McInerney.
Yeah, it's the small things too that really make the difference. The fact that Marquette came out and decided that, hey, Colin Falls, you're going to play the way we want you to play, not standing out there shooting over the top of us. He missed a couple shots, open shots, but at that point he was so out of his rhythm he just couldn't get it back. But you know, you got to give it to Marquette's defense and not necessarily and forcing Notre Dame into bad shots, and not necessarily just Notre Dame taking bad shots, but Marquette doing a great job of getting them to take bad shots.
And the defense that Marquette plays is often overlooked because they're such a good 3-point shooting team, and they average 75 points a game. What a job done by Tom Crean.
Yeah, I mean, he really is. I mean, he's a winner, and he's a guy who cares about his players. And I know every coach in the NCAA cares about their players, but he really shows it, and he tells them. I mean, we're watching shoot around, and he's got players. He's asking them what they think for certain plays, what should be ran, what shouldn't. And that's how players respect you.
Donnie, they went through a 2-hour workout this morning.
Yeah, I shouldn't say shoot around.
Practice.
That was a practice. It wasn't a shoot around. It was a practice. But again, guys are on the same page. They understand, hey, we're going to shoot around. It's really going to be a practice, but that's what's got us to this point of 18-8 and 34 seconds to go, 19-8, and they're going to stick with it.
And Falls will go to the line here. Finally with an opportunity to score a point in this game. Foul on James, 19 foul. Falls with 1 and 1. Tom Crean will tell you that chemistry-wise, this is the best chemistry he's had in a long time. Maybe going back to that 2003 team that went to the Final Four.
Yeah, and you know, Chapman's one of those guys we talked about who was on that Final Four team, and so you got that to add to Coach Crean and his beliefs and how guys are supposed to play. You got Chapman as a guy who's been there and said, hey, listen, guys, he's telling James and, you know, and also Novak, hey, this is how we have to play to get back there.
Foul on Carter, so we'll go to the other side. For Carter, his 5th foul, he's fouled out. And what an effort from Russell Carter. Finished up with 20 points to go along with 5 rebounds. Did all he could to keep his team in it.
And there you see the beauty of Mike Bray's coaching, really not just letting the kid run down and sit on the bench, but saying, hey, you know what? You had a great night. You gave everything. You left it on the floor. That's how you're supposed to play the game. And that's why players love coaches like Mike Bray and Tom Crean on the other side.
There's Tom Crean. His team with a chance to improve to 19-8 now. Chapman with 10 points, make it 11. 8-point lead. Falls, pulls up, shoots the three and hits. So he made a couple of free throws and finally a three-pointer falls.
And you just wish that they could have tried to run some plays like that earlier in the game, or that Falls would have shown that same assertiveness as he does on this shot right here. I mean, this is just a simple head fake, one dribble pull-up, and that's what you wanted from him if you're Notre Dame or a Notre Dame fan. Earlier in the game, he just didn't get it.
Ball's first field goal, now 1 for 8 from the field, 1 for 6 from three-point range to go along with a couple of free throws. 75-70. Falls with 5 points, well under his season average of 15 a game.
And if you're Notre Dame, you're thinking, okay, we fall tonight to 4-10. What's the magic number to get into the Big East tournament? They had an opportunity to go to Providence, which is a winnable game for them, and then also come back here and play a DePaul team that really DePaul's playing for next season. I mean, they're pretty much out of it at 3-10 right now.
Well, they must win the next 2 games to close out the season. Get into the Big East tournament. Irish on an 8-2 run right now over the last 33 seconds. Novak foul by McIlhenny. So Marquette did a good job of getting it in the hands of the man that they want at the free throw line. 98.5% from the strike, Steve Novak.
And Novak stepped his game up, and you know, you talk about double-doubles. He's got, what, 19 and 10 rebounds now, and that's how he's supposed to play. I mean, that's how you want your senior leader to play, a guy who's as prolific scoring-wise as he is.
His career free throw average, best in school history at Marquette. 93%. Butch Lee had the record. It was 85% for Lee, and Travis Diener 84%. Falls, throws one up. Kurz comes down with it. Back out, errors, short. And James grabs it, protects it. He'll go to the line.
Have to talk to Novak about that last free throw. He hit back rim. It's a little bit too much rim there. It went in, but
nothing but net when Novak's at the line.
That's how it's supposed to be. He spoiled us.
Quinn's out of the game. Chris Quinn leaves, 12 points. A couple of assists. Had a rough go of it from the field. 3 for 12. 2 for 5 from three-point range. And freshman James. In and out on the first. Marquette will play at Louisville and home against Providence this week. Notre Dame will play at Providence and wrap things up, as Donnie said, at home against DePaul next weekend. Kurz pulls up. Ayers follows. 6-point game. Matthews is fouled by Ayers.
Now that's a play there that the NBA took and changed that, where you can just foul a guy, which I don't like. I don't think you should have the opportunity to foul a guy without the basketball and then have him go to the front. That was what a couple years back, the Hack-a-Shack rule, where they were just fouling him no matter where he was on the floor. You go down, he missed a couple, and you get the ball back. You should have some type of penalty, in my eyes, if you foul a guy without the basketball. Either a one, and I think the NBA has really experimented with it. You get one free throw and the ball back if you're the team that was fouled, but Matthews makes them both there. It's all but in the books.
McIlhenny throws one up. And that is all she wrote. Marquette wins 80-72. Tom Crean's team now 19-8, 9-5 in the Big East. Notre Dame falls to 13-12, 4-10 in Big East play. Notre Dame hung with the Golden Eagles for the better part of 30 minutes, and then the Golden Eagles, thanks to Novak and James, pulled away. For my partner, Donnie Marshall, I'm Lou Canellis. Now let's get it to our ESPNU studios and Mike Call. Mike.